Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose, and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey towards freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this.
Hi Jason, how are you today?
I'm very good, Felia. How are you?
I'm good too, thank you.
Welcome to Uncovered.
And what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to be focusing on disappointment, which are basically the things you haven't achieved yet in your life.
Okay, and how do we usually look at disappointment?
Look, I think what people do around disappointment is they're looking at usually other people. Or themselves. So we're looking at, disappointing others. A lot of the time, kids receive this. I'm really disappointed in you. So it's quite often a projection baseline that comes along. So then what we do is we don't want to disappoint others. So that's where it first comes from.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So that's the standard rules around disappointment. It's actually projection based, and then it's inwardly based. So who have we disappointed in? So there are times that I run this where I'm like, I don't want to disappoint you, Philia, and last week you told me the best thing I could ever have is that you don't feel like I'm your boss. That we're working together.
Yeah.
And that made me realise that I am doing a really good job running this place, because I never want to be anyone's boss. I want to actually be working with people and having really good co-workers, as opposed to me being the person who hits the hammer on the head and makes all the decisions. Even though I do have to make those bigger decisions, I want to be able to be supported. So that's what I have done. And last week I had a couple of huge meltdowns, and I was like, oh geez, I hope she's not disappointed in seeing where I'm at under the covers. And what I realised was the absolute opposite. You actually felt relieved that you thought I was a normal human being like everybody else.
Yeah. And it was good, to be able to support you as well, because you always support everyone else, and sometimes it's, you kind of like, oh, how can I support you back? And that gave me the opportunity to do that too.
And you did it in spades. And so, I think what we've got to learn to be able to do around disappointment is understanding that we know the path that we would like to take. And how many times, Philia, have you known what you've wanted to do for the day and you didn't do it?
Oh, so many times.
How many of you guys listening to this right now? So many times I've done the same. And you get disappointed in yourself for not saying or following through with the things that you say that you want to do. And quite often, especially if there's something that really means a lot to you, and you feel scared about taking those steps towards the journey that you want to take, and you feel disappointed that you can't get there the way that you always wanted to. But I think this idea of expectation that we create in our world can build disappointment inside of it.
Oh, absolutely. And then oftentimes I think, especially with other people, it's uncommunicated expectations. We get disappointed in them because or somebody gets disappointed in us because they have expectations that we don't even know about.
Yeah, and that quite often leads to a massive level of disappointment, because they're unworded expectations is teaching people that they're going to fail before they even begin. And it's really, really challenging, because we've got to learn to be able to communicate really well so we don't get disappointed in life and in people. I know people have quite often put me up on a pedestal, and then they get disappointed that I'm a normal human being like everybody else, even though I tell them I'm a normal human being with faults and failures and problems like everybody else, and I don't look at them that way. It's just we all have faults and failures and things that we don't do.
Absolutely.
It's how we do the faults and failures and understand the purpose in the problems of them. And I think what we've got to learn to be able to do is work with disappointment to see what it is that we can achieve, because imagine what it's like if you say, okay, I want to write a book in 6 months, right? And you've set yourself a deadline, and 6 months you're going to get this book done, and you don't get it done. So it was never going to be able to get done in 6 months, let's say. Too many things on, and you had no chance of being able to get that done from a reality perspective, but you bite off more than you can chew. So when we do bite off more than we can chew, we can end up really, really disappointed. So then when we get that book done, so for me as an example, it could have taken me 6 months to get my book out, which is From Broken to Breakthrough, by the way. I've got a book out, by the way. And it took me 4.5 years to get that book out. And I could be really disappointed or in myself, which I was feeling the pressure and disappointment of not being able to get that out there. I was too scared, and but then when it came out, all I thought was, this could have been done earlier. Everyone was excited for me, and I was like, yeah, but you don't realise it took me 4.5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't be proud of myself. I was disappointed in myself that I got it out. Simply because my head talk was saying it should have been done much earlier, and I'd already been in the disappointment. So I couldn't actually get myself out of it. It's so interesting how disappointment can actually lodge itself in and say, well, I decided a certain thing and then I disappointed myself. So even when I did overcome the problem, you can still stay in the negativity of that problem.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and I'm putting my hand up for that. So what I want you guys to know is that you got to learn to make sure you don't backlash yourself by biting off more than you can chew, or looking at your next carrot as well, and thinking, oh well, I've got this next thing I've got to do, and you're not celebrating your achievements that you do create, because it really comes down to a reflective state. So people who are naturally negative, which I have a natural tendency to be, and that's why I created all of this stuff around emotions, because I wanted to find a positive way to look at the negativities.
Which is, different, so different to anything else that you can find.
Yeah, so I wanted to look at all the words and say, well, I'm wreaking havoc on myself. So how can I make sure that I can share something that is for the naturally negative people to actually find the goodness in the problem? And that's where all this stuff is coming from. So now looking at that, I'd be disappointed if I didn't get this stuff out there and show a different way of approaching.
Yeah, imagine if the academy had just stayed in your head for years. You would have been pretty disappointed at some stage.
Yeah, because there's so many different ways that I look at things, and if you look at disappointment in the way that I just expressed, or disappointment as a way forward, you can basically look at all the disappointments that you've had in your life, which are projection based, letting people down, or whatever that we do, and go, well, what do you want to do with them now? Do you need to scratch an itch on something that you haven't scratched? I'm disappointed I didn't chase that job. I'm disappointed I didn't quit that job. I'm disappointed that I didn't decide to do art. Disappointed that I didn't try my hand at coaching. So
it basically goes hand in hand with regret.
100%. So what we've got to look at is say, well, do we want to stay in disappointment, or do we want to achieve through it? And if we stay in disappointment and say, well, I didn't get that, and we get stuck, then regret comes in as we get older, and then we miss out on a fortuitous life. So I think the answer around disappointment and the emotion around it is that understand, who you're disappointed with as well. Like, look at the people that you're disappointed with. So let's say you're disappointed at your mum not giving you what you needed, or your dad, or a partner, or you're disappointed in your kids for not loving you the way that they should love you now that you're a certain age, or whatever it is that's inside of you that you're disappointed with, and be the person that you need to be to fill that cup up. To let go of that reliance if it's somebody else. And then if it's something that you want to achieve, then start creating some bite-sized pieces around this. Now, there's a really cool thing. Do you think you'd be able to put this in the show notes? I called them show notes for the first time. How awesome am I?
You remembered.
I remembered. The Easy Stretch little worksheet.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a little worksheet that gives you an easy stretch thing for you can do stuff that's achievable. So the easy is a momentum shifter, right? And the stretch is doing something that you may have not done before, right? So that's what disappointment is, going towards that thing you haven't done before, or you haven't achieved, or you got 90% of the way and you haven't got 100% of the way, which is what a lot of people do. So if we look at that and we say, okay, what's an easy? It could be phoning a friend. Or it could be, putting something in your calendar to remind you. It could be, drinking a litre of water every day. So you look at an easy thing to create the momentum. It creates a little bit of an endorphin kicker in your brain, and gives you a little bit of, hey, I can. And then you do something that's a little bit more difficult that could take you a week or a month to do, and you keep doing easies in the day. So you've got that momentum and you keep pushing into that stretchy moment.
That sounds really good. And what I was thinking about as well, if you are scared to disappoint others, and that's why you don't do the things that you want to do, ultimately you're going to disappoint yourself through that.
Yeah, 100%. So anything outside of yourself is within you. So, when you don't want to disappoint someone else, you don't want to disappoint yourself. So you've got to look at all the things that you believe are disappointments and where they've come from. Like, sometimes they're perception based. They're not real.
Oh yeah. Most of the time, really.
Yeah. So we've got to look and say, okay, well, what is it that's really going on? What do you want to achieve? And work yourself towards your mirror of your inside, and start building the emotion of proud, the emotional feeling of proud, which is achievement, right? And so when you actually start taking those things that you really want to do, that you're disappointed in yourself for not achieving, could be eating unhealthy food, whatever it is, and you start doing really healthy. Like my wife, I was always really healthy. When we were first together, I was super healthy, and Anya wasn't very healthy. And over this last year, I was in and out. I was super healthy when we first met, and then I put on a lot of kilos because she's the best cook. But that was my fault, right? And now she's surpassed me in the health game. Really fit, really healthy, and I have to catch up to her, which is really cool, because now I can look and say, well, she's the person that I've got to catch up to, as opposed to she's the person that I'm the person that she was always behind. And it's good to actually look at someone who's in front of you and see how you can move towards someone who is taking the steps that you want to take, and help lead you in that way. And that, guys, that's where our academy comes to the fore. Like, a lot of the time, we've had people in our academy who have not been able to move the levers forward simply because psychologically they couldn't.
Oh yeah.
And if you feel that way, come and connect in with us, because this is what we do really well. We help re-establish the psychology inside of you to help you work with those disappointments so they become opportunities. I was just chatting to someone today about a magic weapon that she has around sadness, right? She's a medium, and so she helps people with sadness all the time. She was running away from sadness. I was like, sadness is your weapon. It was a massive light bulb moment. And so now it's like she's always stalling. So we're going to help break the staller in her and help her create momentum so then she can build a business as a medium, and she's actually a really good one, right? So it's nice to actually know that when we get that momentum driving, she's going to go to the direction that she wants. And I know there's quite a few people in the academy who have said, man, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for what we did for them, which is help understand the psychology of why we feel disappointed, what's behind the disappointment, what's underneath it, because there's usually deep psychology that we can't find, and you can only get to the end of your own horizon. I'm very lucky. I've got my wife who's really helped me move in the direction that I want to move into in my life, and I do the same for her, and we all need someone that's actually going to help unleash the potential inside of everybody. We need that. I think it's really important that it's not necessarily the academy, reach out for help if you feel like you're looping around in a circle.
Reach out to a friend, or someone you trust, or someone who you feel like can help you.
Yeah, that's right, because disappointment can be like walking around in a circle, or you get to break the loop, and you've got to figure out how to get that right help to break that loop well. And then you can end up becoming proud and connected with what you're doing. There's an amazing lady who has got this fantastic product for the nails and nail people, and it's ridiculous. But she kept stalling and not been able to get a product out there, so she was trying to get some help with it, and she's finally moving simply because her psychology was not allowing her to go there. I knew she would end up with huge amount of disappointment because her product is going to save so many necks and so many jobs, and she couldn't get herself over the line. And she's just put a post up just on the weekend saying, oh my God, I've just got my product out there and it's starting to create momentum, and she's putting things in place, and it's so nice to see from her feeling really disappointed to actually having the opportunity and excitement in her life now for the first time.
Absolutely. And that's then, once you take the step, then it's like this freeing kind of feeling. You're like, oh, finally I'm doing this, even though it's scary and that, but it's naturally scary. Anything that you do that you haven't achieved yet, like the academy is quite scary for me, guys. It's like it's something I'm sharing, philosophies and ways of approaching that have never been spoken about before except from my mouth. Right? And then I'm sharing stuff because I've read books, I'm like, that doesn't make sense, and then I'm like, this makes sense. And so I'm sharing pieces of information that are very, very different. So it's scary to be running against the grain somehow. I know the thing that people tell me the most in from the feedback I hear is that makes sense. And so I know I'm making sense of something that a lot of people make a lot of complexities around. Oh yeah, we do say that a lot. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that's right. Why we do that.
Yeah. So if we're looking at disappointment, guys, to make sense of it, just write what you're disappointed in, get some help, and start creating. And we'll send you that easy stretch show notes, so you can just have something that you can actually start creating some momentum with, so you can move the needle where you really want to go.
Awesome. Well, thanks for this chat.
Well, thank you so much, Philia. And look, if you like this podcast around disappointment, our website is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademypodcast.com. And I'd love it if you could like or share this to someone who feels a little bit disappointed in themselves or disappointed at the moment, and maybe this can help them move the needle where they really like to go. And I hope you're having an awesome day, and thanks, Philia, for connecting with me today.
Thank you.
All right.